Go ahead and call to order this quarterly meeting of the Whitley County Community Corrections Advisory Board for March 6th, 2025. We will note that there is a quorum present. I am going to depart from the published agenda in that we do not have minutes prepared yet for our last quarterly meeting from December, and will therefore submit those for approval together with the proposed minutes for this meeting at our next quarterly meeting in June, and apologize that we didn't have those taken care of. Unfinished business, is there any? Okay, so let's go to our new business reports. Alcohol and drug program.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Julie.
So far this year, we've had 52 referrals. So we currently have about 205 people in the program. We had a weekend class here in the County Government Center in January, and there were 12 participants in that class. I completed all the off-court services reports and submitted those about a week and a half ago. And the program will be applying for some DFI grant money to help pay for the curriculums that we use. That's all I have, Greg.
Thank you very much, Julie. Are there any questions for Julie about the drug and alcohol program? Did you want to add something else?
No, thank you.
Okay. Addiction Recovery Court, not to be confused with Drug Court.
Not the official title, but I say that a lot.
Okay. Whose is that? Is that yours, Judge? Or Julie again?
No, Julie, why don't you go ahead?
So we had since the last meeting. So we had our meeting with Office Court Services on February 18th, and they met with us and the team, and we went through several questions with them. They then went back and made some recommendations to the policies and procedures, and they emailed that back to me yesterday, or on the 4th, today's the 6th, right? They emailed that back to me on the 4th. I should have all those items corrected and prepared to return to them tomorrow. We've gotten 2 referrals to the program. I completed those assessments. And on Tuesday of next week, we'll have our first official team meeting to screen those 2 referrals. Judge?
I concur with everything Julie said. I think we were talking on the phone this morning and bickering a little bit about what the email said. I'm going to read directly. It says, you will find the provisional certification memo attached. I think that means we've been provisionally certified. I'm declaring it so. So we're in business, and we're officially operational.
For the time being.
For now, yes.
For 6 months.
For our referrals, do we go through DJ?
Okay. Or Jen, Patrick, or Lindsay, or Haley.
Keep me out of it.
Not Lindsay.
Not yet.
So the referrals go through the probation department then?
Well, both. Well, it kind of depends on the referral.
Okay.
So if it's one of those withheld judgments, I'll get those probably from the prosecutor's office as they're doing plea negotiations. And then the other ones will be probation violations, so we'll receive those from the probation department.
And the 2 so far are probation violations.
All right. Any other questions or information? Okay. On detention.
I wasn't ready, Greg.
I'm sorry. It's your time to shine, Virgil.
Okay, let's go. Numbers are actually increasing a little bit. By next week, we should have 23 persons. We have 21 now. 14 males, 7 females, and they're all adults. And Jen says I think they're going to juvenile.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, put that on the agenda, the detention agreement, some of the pushback we're getting from other counties?
Yeah, so when we received transfer-ins, some of the other counties their judges do not want to sign our detention agreement. And they say that it's their job to incarcerate persons, which we understand. Detention agreement kind of helps us because if we show up at somebody's house and they're drunk or stoned, I'm not comfortable just leaving them there because who knows if they're well, I'm violated anyway, so I might as well go out to the bar and they jump in the car and they kill a family. That's kind of what the detention agreement is for. If somebody violates bad, that we can take them to our jail and let the other county know, hey, we're out, they're at our jail, come get them. But some of the other counties, judges do not like that.
And we've never abused it. It's always if there's safety to themselves or others is when we would obviously have to keep that detention agreement. So we just wanted you to know he is getting some pushback from surrounding counties and kind of get some direction from the board is that should we accept the provision from counties that will not sign that agreement?
How many other counties is it?
Wells definitely,
DeKalb, Noble.
I can't imagine a judge in DeKalb being difficult.
What's that?
Sorry, I can't imagine a judge in DeKalb County being difficult. That's what I said.
It's not the one you
So yeah, a lot of the surrounding counties, yes.
It's not Brandon, because he doesn't have anything.
K County is fine, Huntington County, so far is fine. Noble County, no, DeKalb, no, Wells, no. Wabash is fine. That's about the counties that do send us people.
So what's is the question, should we consider not placing them on home detention if the judges won't?
Not accepting them.
Right.
Yeah, so
For us.
For like,
For the other county,
yeah, that we would not accept transference from those counties that will not. How do you feel about, I mean, do you feel like we should?
that's my initial instinct, if you don't like our rules, find somewhere else to put your people.
Well, but those are normally going to be people that are residents of here but sentenced out of the other county.
Yes.
So, Virgil, let me ask you this. When you gave a scenario when this first came up, and is there another method if somebody's violating the terms of home detention, but it's more technical and it's not identified specifically at that time? How big a deal is it that we are able to detain them right then versus in some of those instances, is there actually a new crime or a suspicion of a new crime or something that we could just charge them in with?
Yes, if it's a new crime, he's case.
Okay.
Yeah, we just call our law enforcement and they'll take it from there. I will tell you that I can't off the top of my head think of an instance where a transfer in person that we have taken to our jail. I think there was actually one, and that was probably 8 to 10 years ago. I think the last couple of times we used that detention agreement was our own persons who have threatened to harm themselves. And I didn't want that on my conscience. Like, hey, I told them I was going to hang myself this night. And so we, used it, for that instance. But I can't tell you the last time we used the detention agreement on the transfer. So we have denied Wells County. I've talked to Blake many times about this. And with that same scenario, and he agrees with me, but he's like, hey, my judges just won't do it.
So if a judge won't sign, we just say no.
That's what we did with Wells.
I mean, can we be more specific in the agreement and say, like, if they're, like, intoxicated or
They won't.
they won't, okay.
They don't like it at all.
Then I would say don't do it, because by the time you file a violation and then it gets in front of that judge to decide, that could be, like, weeks later of you having to supervise.
So when I was talking to Blake down in Wells County, and I came up with that scenario, and I'll tell you, that scenario doesn't happen very often. He's like, well, you can call me. I'm like, so we can call you at 1 a.m. and you're going to drive up there and grab this person is what you're telling me?
He would.
He's like, no.
But you can make the call.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I think we should leave it just like it is.
Okay, and just tell them, And my only problem with that, and I don't have a huge problem with it, is the harm seems to be Whitley County citizens who are trying to take advantage of things here locally to work. And, because I don't think the judges in the other counties are gonna care.
Well, except then they'll have to house them somehow.
That's true, that's more of the sheriff though, probably than the judge.
Sometimes the sheriffs make the judges there.
Now, I'm not offended by it, so I guess we'll just keep,
It may be, once that's our
Stay the
approach and
course.
we have the backing of the board to say that, they'll reconsider.
oh, true too. Well, it sounds like nobody's wanting to change that. I'm not moved to move, so.
After we, denied the person, this is probably 2 months ago, I think, from Wells County, Blake had actually reached out again and said, hey, send me that paperwork, I will, speak to the judge again. We never heard back. So I think he was trying to help him.
I mean, I understand why judges are hesitant, because it's a due process issue, right? You go out there, someone's wasted, they're not committing a crime, they are on probation, they're not supposed to do that, but there's a process for it, right? You file a violation, you bring it to court. So, but if they agree, and we have the agreement, and they understand the rules, that's why it would be allowable. So I understand the rub, but, I mean, I also think, I understand what you're saying too, that you leave someone, they're like, oh, I'm going to jail.
Yes.
And then they just, completely go off the rails. So I think it's a good policy.
Well, and I think in other counties too, they don't always pull people off of home detention for violations like that. And so they might be like, well, we don't want them back in our jail just to put them back, it's just too much of a headache.
We use our discretion. So we catch persons drinking, but if somebody's 2-3 on a PBT and just is not coherent, then that's where we're at.
Okay.
A lot of those are executed sentences too, so it's like in lieu of jail.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you for pretrial services.
All right, well, we have 374 people under active supervision, 20 of them being high risk, 175 being moderate, 165 being low risk. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to attend a training that was provided by the prosecutor's office to all of the law enforcement officers here in Whitley County. The prosecutor's office provided 2 trainings, and a part of that training was a portion about pretrial services. So we never have had the opportunity, or really I never took advantage of having a conversation with all of the law enforcement officers so they would really know what it is that we do, what the goals of the program are. So Jen made a presentation there that discussed what it is that we do and how our program is different than maybe what some of their perceptions might be of how pretrial services is in other counties. And so I was there to answer a couple questions that some of the officers had. After that training, I reached out to the jail commander and asked him if he'd be interested in providing a similar type of training for their new 6 confinement officers. And so on the 17th, I'll be making a presentation to those 6 new officers about pretrial services and community corrections as a whole. So that the jailers kind of have a better idea of what it is community corrections does and how that affects the jail staff and the inmates, and maybe some of the questions that they might be getting from the box. In your packet, you'll have the new data measures. Those are the ones that were required to comply with IFCS, and those are from 2024. Just introduced in January of this year, our office is required to start tracking new violent felony offenses that occur while someone's on pretrial services supervision. So they're out of custody, they get a new case, and they want us to differentiate between whether it's a misdemeanor case, a felony case, and if that felony case is a violent offense. I think the biggest point from that I took away from it is that what our office considers a violent offense is different than what they're considering it. So they're actually going by the serious violent felon statute. So where in my head I think of, domestic battery as a level 5 as being a violent felony offense, that doesn't fall in the statute that way. So You won't probably see any statistics on that maybe till the end of the year, because the person under that supervision that would have that statistic collected on them would have had started in January 25 or any time thereafter and completed. So anyone that would maybe have gotten put on in 2024 that we're still supervising and then would maybe have that data code collected on in 2025 wouldn't be included. So I think it'll be a while before we start seeing any data coming from that collection point. Our IOCS report is also due by March 31st. I plan to submit that in 2 weeks. Julie and I discussed maybe getting a small group together of what was the policy committee of Pretrial Services when we first started and developing the program to kind of look at the ways that our target population has changed over the years. For example, when the target population was originally created, our office wouldn't screen individuals that were booked in the jail for failure to appear. They would just sit and move on. So that's changed over the years, especially with the amount of individuals that are cited in court. So if the officer uses their discretion and they decide not to take an individual to jail, they're cited or summoned in court and then they fail to appear, in the past, a warrant would be issued and then they would just sit with no bond. What current practice is the same, but now our office is instructed to then screen that individual even though they failed to appear to the initial hearing. And so we're going through our same assessment, our same reporting. And so then those individuals are then being released to us or have to post a bond and then we're supervising them. So just some things that we just need to clean up in terms of how the program looked like in 2019 when everybody was gathering and creating these policies and actually what's kind of in place now. And so I'll present that at the June meeting of the prosecutors and the judges decide to do with that, how they want to proceed and what that might look like. Our certification is up in February, so I'll be reaching out to the Indiana Office of Court Services to get that all rolling. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Tasha, that's February next year.
Yeah, February
Okay.
26th. Yes, yeah.
Good to see you're late, otherwise.
Yeah.
Questions for Tasha? Thank you. Vicki, are you doing residential work release?
I am.
All right, you're up.
So nothing much has changed. Operations are pretty much the same. Our numbers today are 50. We have 38 males and 12 females. 45 are on work release. 5 are on our reentry program, which Alyssa will talk about shortly. Our numbers have been low through this past quarter, but we are now starting to kind of slowly increase, which is good. The only other thing that I just wanted to bring to your attention is our nurse Brenda. She does an amazing job there, and she has coordinated a couple classes for us over this last quarter. She's done the, or have Positive Resource Center come in and do HIV, STD prevention for participants, and then also her and Ashley Blue, I believe her name is, from the American Heart Association, work together to put on an essentials for preventative and better health for the participants. We also have Lindsay from QCC, who does a mental health class with our females, and over the last quarter she did self-care, conflict resolution, and healthy relationships.
Thank you. Questions for Vicki?
You say the numbers are improving here in the very recent future. Can you give us a number? We're at 50 now. We're a month ago. Where were we?
We were in the low 40s.
Low 40s. So
Yeah.
it's been, and I think that might coincide with kind of a call from Paula and company that, hey, our financials are not as good as they should be. Our numbers are not as good as they should be. And I think we've all been responsive to that.
Yes,
So.
and I was gonna, thank you for bringing that, I was just going to express my appreciation to everyone that took the time to meet with Julie and I about this. The commissioners, the council, the judges, prosecutors, everybody was supportive and knows that we want to continue having these levels of supervision in the county, but we need the resources to do so. And we never want to be an agency that's a money grab, that we just want people in the program just to have revenue, but there is a need for this service, and I'm gonna continue to look for other funding sources, but I'm also going to try to educate our local stakeholders on we need a long-term commitment as far as sustaining community corrections from county general.
Vicky invited the 4D staff and I over to go through, and I don't know why I've never gone through there, but I haven't. I've been up in the side offices, and she took us through the whole facility, and I will say I can't even imagine it being completely full. So I think that the staff, Vicky, and everyone does a great job. Just looking to see how it's set up. It is tight quarters over there, so a completely full facility with the population that we have now, which is if they're on work release, and that's a higher need population, they're a higher risk population. You know, the ones that are low risk go home. So I think that, you know, we do have to consider that, you know, for the long-term future, that, you know, we need people over there, but we need to have the staff and we need the capacity. And I think that how it's being run is great. So I appreciate it, just being able to go over and see it.
Other questions or comments for Vicki? Thank you, ma'am. Elizabeth, Veterans Treatment Court.
Yes, so in February, we had 24 Veterans Treatment Court participants. 6 were from Kosciuszko County transfer-ins, 2 were from Huntington County, 1 was a transfer from Wells County, for our Whitley County cases. We have 1 participant out to LaPorte County, 1 out to Lake County, and 1 out to Marion County Veterans Court. We have 7 individuals with pending cases right now that have gotten information about Veterans Court. 3 have been screened, 2 of those have been approved, and are just waiting on their change of pleas to start. We continue to work with Mission 25 and utilize some of their apartments, one of their townhomes and one of their 1-bedroom apartments. They don't have any openings right now at the shelter for males or in any apartment, so hopefully if something else opens up, we might have somebody else that we could put in one of those if given the opportunity. Let's see. Judge Garza continues to fill in for Judge Paul while he's deployed. We had our last graduation ceremony in November. We recognized 4 graduates. The next ceremony will be in May. It'll be on May 22nd at the Peabody Library again, and we'll have probably 8 to 10 participants graduating in that one. So it's going to be a big one. Everyone will get invitations like you always do. We have been recertified through August 17th of 2026. Our annual report was submitted to their office last month, and it summarized the 2024 calendar year. So just a little bit of summary from 2024 was we had 35 participants involved in Veterans Court at that time through 2024, and in 2023 we had 25. So we increased quite a bit just even in 1 year. Let's see, out of those 35, 7 were successful completions, those graduates that I spoke of. 3 were terminations, and 1 was voluntary withdrawal. Let's see. To date, since 2017 when we started, there's been 61 successful completions or graduates, 12 terminations, and 6 voluntary withdrawals. So even though we've been recertified through August of 2026, the program has been funded through 2025, but also with that being said, kind of as we talked about budgets and things like that, grant money, the amount of grant money that we got to sustain us through 2025 is just enough to barely cover salaries. So the things that we've been able to offer the participants in the past, I know there's a couple people that were my last meeting, so they've heard this spiel, but you know, we like to offer them some incentive gift cards of like a $20 gift card if they complete treatment or if they pass from one phase to another. Also, they're drug screened 2 times a week at $20 a test, so that, you know, can be up to $200 depending on how many weeks or in a month that is out of their pocket. And so a lot of them are on fixed income. We had grant money in the past where we would be able to pay for the first 2 tests of the month and the last 2 tests of the month. That is gone as well, and also our graduation ceremonies that we have, and then we like to have some group activities 2 times a year with them where we'll do a CPR or a cooking class or a financial planning class outside of the courtroom setting so they can kind of have that camaraderie, you know, in a different situation than just a courtroom, and those have always been successful. So we are right now kind of trying to branch out and talk to different agencies and organizations about possible donations to kind of help fund some of those extra activities that we do and things like that so we don't lose out on them. Probation was kind enough to pay for our next graduation ceremony in May, so that's taken care of, and our phase progression gift cards and our treatment completion gift cards. So we're slowly kind of checking some things off the list, but we've got, you know, ways to go. Our case manager, Amy, and myself spoke at the Cherubusco Rotary on Tuesday. We're going to speak at the Columbia City Rotary later this month. I've got an idea about some local churches with some names of some pastors that I can talk to about, maybe they would want to donate some $20 gift cards, just those little types of things that we can kind of utilize for the participants as we go. So that's kind of a work in progress with us and where we're at right now.
Thank you. And you probably wouldn't turn down if anybody here wanted to go buy some gift cards and hand them to you, right?
No,
Okay.
but that's not what, that wasn't what I was asking.
I understand.
But no, I wouldn't.
I've been on boards like that before. It's very awkward. Well, so Greg, what are you going to contribute?
Pass the hat.
Pass the hat, yeah. Have you had any conversations with anybody having to do with the Veterans Marathon and Gary Burke?
So no, and this is something that we just kind of found out our numbers like a few weeks ago where we really were like, oh. So we're just in these kind of early scrambling phases of figuring out, but
Then
I'll have that.
I'm going to toss that one in.
Yes.
Gary is a veteran himself and kind of shepherds the Wreath Project and some different projects for veterans. And I'm not sure, but I thought that the Veterans Marathon usually designates a charity for the proceeds of that race, because I think that's a nonprofit. So you might check and see. That's a possibility. Any other questions or comments?
Do you pay someone to do your CPR class? So it's been Kathy Shively in the past, and so I think the only thing that they had to pay, so they didn't pay for anything, but what we paid for was they got the workbook
And the cards.
and the cards, and so it was just kind of the regular
That
cost.
just come on, or I don't remember, it's changed. Darcy and I will both be CPR instructors.
Awesome.
But you might check with Darcy, because there's lots of programs she can do for you.
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else for Elizabeth? Mr. Bieber.
Currently on probation, and those coming down the pipeline, we've got approximately 500 people, 305 as of yesterday on active supervision right now. The amount of precinct investigation reports, I believe the last time we all met, I had spoke about how those have increased. I ran the numbers from the beginning of the year up through March 5th for the last 2 years, and they were approximately 10, 11. We're already at 16, so that trend just seems to be exponentially increasing with the cases coming through the criminal courts. We've got a lot of training coming up within our department. March 10th, our newest probation officer, Kiara Lau, she will be attending her orientation and plans on taking the test on April 3rd, and then hopefully we're at full staff, full functioning capabilities. There was an opportunity that presented itself through the Popeye organization. If you're not familiar with that, it's the the Probation Officers Professional Association of Indiana, where they offered a multi-day training event to probation officers, a max of 3 per department for the Static 99, R, Stable 2007, and Q 2007. Those are all sex offender assessments, very specific, and I was aware of the acute. Throughout time, we've had certain individuals certified in that, but it's normally incredibly costly. So we've normally had one. They were able to, at a discounted rate, allow us to send 3 officers max for less than what typically in the past just one officer could get trained on. So I'm taking full advantage of that. And so Jen, Ian, and Sylvia are going to be doing that next week. At the same time, I'll be at the Popeye Management Institute in Indianapolis talking in regards to what to expect, what's coming up, some of the funding issues as far as the flatlining of the grants being received. And so there will be a lot more information coming out from that as well. I know one big hot topic between probation and community corrections has been AI. Apparently there's an entire breakout session in regards to that because that is the future. And so that's pretty entertaining. Jen and I are going to be attending the Senior Officials Workshop hosted through Whitley County Emergency Management on March 27th. I've never done it before, but I believe other people have, and I've only heard good things, so that should be beneficial. And then I think other people here might be attending the Justice Services Conference in April, which is always great. It's got some breakout sessions in regards to veterans, drug trends, first-person shooter, things of that nature. So we're going to get plenty of training this year, and work continues to be busy as normal. In most recent news, we've been informed that we are going to be moving locations, and so when the jail was moving out, we purged a lot of old files in the back, probably at least a third of our files. After that, then we've tried to do an internal purge, so when the move takes place, it's less that we have to move. And it's been very entertaining, the things that we've ran across that have been in certain corners, dark corners for years. In fact, our newest probation officer got to experience what a floppy disk was, in which she had only heard of or seen on the internet.
She's 22.
As are some of those discs. So we've been there.
Thank you, Ed. So, and I don't know if it's not public knowledge. Do you know where you're moving to?
It's public knowledge.
Yeah, it's public knowledge now. We'll be moving over to Purdue Extension.
Which is
Okay,
my
which is
Ace
out.
hardware.
Yeah, which is out in yes.
Yep.
Dr. Brooks'
Yeah.
old office.
Yes.
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 They're going right there,
And where's extension going?
right out here.
I believe they're coming down here.
Drug task force area.
Okay, here in this building.
Correct.
Okay.
For a while, it was the
All right.
child energy.
Any other questions?
I'm thinking of a different building.
Okay.
Okay.
Paula, you're on.
It is grant season, so working on a number of grants. I will have them all submitted by March 31st. I do need a motion today to allow Ed and I to submit the grant. This is to the Indiana Department of Corrections for community corrections, the grants that I'm responsible for. Obviously, the problem-solving grants, pretrial, the opioid settlement, then the community corrections, which includes all the community corrections programs, and the residential. In addition, I'm responsible for the jail treatment, which just allows for additional hours in the jail for mental health services. All the community corrections funding that we ask for is for personnel. So
Same for personnel. The portion of the grant that we'll be requesting is just to support our high-risk felony offender probation officer position currently occupied by Sylvia Gable, as well as our field officer, who not only does the home contacts, employee applications for all of our high-risk felony offenders, but truly for the entire department. Those two individuals have also been designated by our office to be assisting with the ARC court as well, too.
Are we asking more this year than we have last year?
I'm gonna ask, but we've heard there's absolutely no increase in the community corrections budget, say, but I've got
So we're asking, we don't expect to receive.
Right.
So,
So moved.
thank you. Chair would seek a motion to authorize the application for probation and community corrections for the Indiana DOC grant for this cycle, and to authorize Ed Bieber and Paula Warden to execute any documents necessary for that. It has been moved.
Second.
Is there a second? And Jennifer seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Yes, ma'am.
DJ asked me or emailed me about, I don't know who it was, in this new case plan credit time that DOC issued. So we obviously saw a decline as far as the number of individuals who are receiving on CTP, because now they have this new case plan credit time in DOC where it doesn't require you to complete programming. They have an assessment tool in place, and if you participate in programming and they think that justifies some type of time credit or credit cut, you're getting it. So I reached out to a couple of contacts at DOC just to follow up on some questions DJ had, and they said there's absolutely nothing we can do about it at the local level.
Yeah, welcome to the Department of Correction and that brilliantly managed administrative body. The practical reality is the sentences that we're arguing for and sometimes securing in our plea agreements aren't going to be honored by the Department of Correction, at least insofar as that we expected them to be honored. The other thing anecdotally that I will say is that we are seeing more and more people come out of the Department of Correction after a lengthy stay more addicted to the substance than when they went in. So what does all that mean practically today? It means that we're looking hard at our plea agreements and what we're expecting from offenders when we think a for example, a 10-year sentence is appropriate, and we negotiate a fixed 10-year sentence into a plea, does that mean what it used to mean? And our internal debate has resolved in favor of the fact that it does not mean what it used to mean. So while we're certainly mindful of the statutory requirement that DOC offenders receive certain credit time, we're on board with that. We don't believe that promise is being kept at the state level from the Department of Correction. So this continues to be a topic at the board level for the prosecutors. We discuss it on a monthly basis, what to do about it. I don't see there's a resolution today, but I am grateful to Paula for her help and wanted the board to be aware that this is going to be an ongoing level of concern. Continue as offender populations continue to increase because they will.
Oh, I apologize.
I was just gonna say, it's frustrating, on that side for sure, as far as the sentence cuts are getting, but on as far as the re-entry portion of it, we put all these programs in place to help them transition back into the community and hopefully be successful. So now they're getting these time cuts and they're just being released. And like DJ said, they're using the entire time, so they have no supportive services. They have very little or zero money. So what type of success are they going to have? So it's so frustrating. I mean, just all the years that we've been, developing and launching these programs, have success with them, and now a population that really needs to be able to use them is not going to be able to.
And this is a new statutory modification, or
No, this is purely administrative, Judge. So
can they do that?
Yeah,
They have.
yes, sir.
Well, you mean there's all kinds of statutory credits. All right, enough said.
I just gave you a
Judge, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
It's beyond the scope of this meeting, but I first time hearing about it. Yeah.
It's a thing, as they say.
Usually when they change things, they pass a law to do that. I'm informed of that.
The DOC doesn't observe that particular convention. So.
Well,
Sounds like Governor Braun needs to invite Mr. Musk to come.
Just to add to that point, I know we spoke with DJ a little bit about this in regards to what it seems to be a growing number of concerns. Very oftentimes, individuals convicted of sex offenses aren't necessarily eligible for community corrections programming. What we've been seeing lately is a lot of individuals who have been convicted of sex offenses being found eligible for such cuts and being released out into the community years earlier than anticipated, and oftentimes, probably the most concerning part, oftentimes without even successfully completing any SOM or sex offender management programming before being released into the community. One of which case was an absolute nightmare, and if Jim wants to talk about it, as one example of kind of what we've been seeing lately, she might be able to kind of help illustrate the irritation that's been probation's end of this situation.
Yeah, we had a sex offender that said that he was getting released and they actually dropped him off at his victim's house. And he was in a wheelchair and they left him at his victim's house. Victim's father had to come out and actually drive him to a hotel. When I contacted DOC to ask where he was, they said we dropped him off at 101 North Main Street, which isn't an address. And they said, well, you take Main Street and you turn left and go 700 feet, and that's where we dropped him off. And they said that, no. And then I found out it was the victim's house. 2 days later, he had a stroke and was in the hospital. This guy should have never been let out. He is now in assisted living because I had to find somewhere for him to go because he couldn't live in hotels. So DOC did not have any reason as to why he was dropped off at his victim's house, nor was there any feedback to us on what happened with him. So, just insane that they would even allow that, and they couldn't even tell me where they dropped him off or what time they dropped him off. So
They are crushing the CTP program because we get notice, we find them eligible, then they go, oh, never mind, they get a time cut, they won't be coming. Yeah. Or we get them and they're there for a week or two, and then we get notice there's a time cut, we need to release them.
Well, I have a real problem with the number of sex offenders who they find eligible for community transition. I wasn't under the impression, perhaps it was my own misunderstanding, I didn't I was under the impression that sex offenders were eligible for community transition. I have taken the unofficial position with community corrections that I email or talk to community corrections and say, in my humble opinion, this person is not and should not be eligible for a community transition slot. I don't know if I'm empowered to do that. I don't know if I'm required to do it. I don't know what my responsibility there is, but I feel like that we should be as a community saying that these folks are not eligible for community transition. That's my take on it. But the number of folks that are coming out of the system right now who are sex offenders, I defer to Paul and Julie because I know they see things differently than maybe I do, but it's an extraordinary number, it seems to me. And it's a great concern.
Agreed.
Okay.
So I don't think that's I think the running out of money is the biggest problem they have. They started taking the level 6s back and now they're not. I think yeah. Well, now they don't. There was an article in Indian Lawyer a couple of weeks ago about they don't have the money to pay jails through housing level 6s. So
I'm
I think it's a
thinking
mess.
that story probably traces back, if somebody was that medically frail that they were in a wheelchair, they looked like they were going to be really expensive. Maybe I'm being cynical here or overly cynical.
No, his CTP, his report said he needed nursing care.
He also never completed any sex offender treatment while in DOC.
So, okay. Other comments? We're not going to solve this for the state, but okay. Paul?
Opioid settlement funds. We obviously have been talking about money. I would like approval to approach the council and commissioners about, we know the only thing right now, Teresa, I don't think there's been any changes, or John, as far as the only thing the opioid settlement plan right now is JCAP, right? The coordinator for the jail. Has there been any other appropriations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we haven't talked about that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, the last thing we had discussed.
Okay. I'd like to present to the council and commissioners just some of the things we talked about today for programs and services that we no longer have funding for. It wouldn't be tied to personnel because I know that fund will be depleted real quick if we put a lot of employees. But maybe it could definitely offer assistance to the Veterans Treatment Corps, Detention, just programs and services. If you allow me to put together a plan to present during budget time for that fund. I mean, Judge.
You looking for authorization for that? Yeah. So moved. And who was the second? Sharon.
Who was the first?
Been moved and seconded that we authorized Paul the Warden to approach the county council and county commissioners regarding additional use of opioid settlement funds for some of the needs that have been discussed here today. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Thank you. Now it's Mr.
The crisis response. So we've actually been going through a little bit of a dry spell as far as adults. Youth are staying pretty consistent with about 2 a month. That's usually what we experience. But as far as the adults go, I think we've only had 1 adult call. Actually, we've had 2 adult calls since we last met, but it's been the same individual. I think we have a great plan for him moving forward now, so I don't think that will be a reoccurring issue anymore. Typically when this happens, we go through this dry spell, I just reach out to law enforcement leadership and just remind them, put it kind of back in the front of their minds, and we see an uptick in calls again. So I plan to do that over the next few weeks, reach out to them, just remind them so they can remind their teams, and then we'll probably see a slight uptick there.
There are a lot of new city officers, a lot. So,
and they were our number 1 referral. So yeah, probably a good idea to just reach out to Chief and let him know.
DJ, were you just gesturing back there, or were you looking?
I was trying to sound intelligent, failing. So
okay.
Pay no mind to that.
Okay. Pay no attention. Any questions or concerns? Okay, for Mista. And then the JCAP reentry program.
So we currently just started the reentry program. We have 5 participants in the program. The target population for this program is history of violating community-based programs. So work release, probation. They also have a substance abuse problem or someone who has been incarcerated for a year or more in the jail or DOC. These participants will be in the reentry program for 90 days, completing programming Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to noon. They also are able to gain employment while being a part of this program. I believe there is a copy of the schedule and paperwork that you guys have. My role with this program is to identify possible participants for this program through the screening process for work release, as well as making sure the day-to-day operations of the programming are running smoothly with the facilitators, as well as helping these participants with anything they may need before they're set to serve. Currently, Brittany Shorey from Pretrial Extension is going to be facilitating a healthy living class that I'll be adding to the schedule at some point for these participants. And I've also been in contact with Carolyn Ross from Lake City about setting up a financial class for the work release participants. With doing all of this, I'm also going to still try to identify possible JCAP candidates for the jail.
Very good.
And Greg asked about that as far as, I have a list on the agenda still as reentry JCAP, just because there hasn't been a new JCAP coordinator hired. I'm sure probably until the sheriff gets settled in the jail, it's kind of on the top of this list. So we just wanted to reassure everyone, we're still trying to identify, people to participate in that program, and when the sheriff's ready to launch it, we'll definitely help with that process and pass out forms and everything. And Melissa will be there to offer support to whoever they hire to be the new coordinator.
So the reentry's at work release still?
Yep.
Okay.
So that, yes, I had even asked about the agenda. I said, so reentry and JCAP are technically two separate programs. The reentry is our program and JCAP is technically the jail's program, but they are trying to coordinate some of it. Okay. Questions for Alyssa? All right. Anything else, Paul?
Well, Taylor is here. You have a copy of the dashboard. I know if you have any questions for her about the report. Can you see her? There she is.
Hiding back there. Not wanting to.
She's hiding from us.
You got her here. Well, it's not in color, but.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm cheap.
But I do know that's
We
California.
have got a fund for that.
No, we don't. Thank you.
No. I understand that. I came in with this color, but this was printed at my office, so.
You're lucky you got cookies.
Okay. Any questions regarding the dashboard report? I still think that is fantastic and
It was a great job.
helps provide a lot of additional information. If there's nothing else, unless someone's offended by stopping the meeting before 1 o'clock, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
And Jennifer has moved to adjourn. Is there a second? Second, we'll give it to Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will stand adjourned. Next meeting for this full group is June 5th, 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.